Welcome back to day 11 of the 12 Days of Giftness. Today I would say is the most serious topic. Today we're discussing boundaries. But as you know, we never start a day without a quote or two. So today's quotes are, "Be who you are and say what you feel, because those that mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind." Quote number 2 says, "You can be the juiciest, ripest peach in the world, and there's still going to be someone that hates peaches." What do these quotes mean? You cannot please everyone all of the time, and we should never try to do that. We should just try and be ourselves, because the people in our lives who really matter, who really care about us, they love the real us. They don't need us to be anybody else. They only need us to be ourselves, and ourselves is okay. Ourselves is good enough. So, all my juicy ripe peaches, let's talk about boundaries. I feel this is a really important topic to discuss as we head into a holiday season. There can be a lot of stress and tension around Christmas, around birthdays, around holidays, for a whole bunch of reasons. Families can be families, and sometimes having to decide who you spend time with on Christmas Day and who you don't spend time with, who you go away on holiday with, can be really stressful and be a bit of a juggling act to try and keep everybody happy. And sometimes we spread ourselves so thinly to try and please everybody, to try and spend time with everybody, and we never consider our own needs and our own requirements. Are we doing too much? Is this manageable? We say yes to everything and everyone to keep everyone else happy, but we don't honor ourselves in the process. So making sure that we have healthy boundaries in our lives so that we don't get burnt out and so that our lives can be manageable is a really healthy tool to have. You might have shared custody of children. You might have a partner and they want to spend time with their family and your family wants you to spend time with them. You might need boundaries around certain foods that you eat or how much alcohol you consume or don't consume. So a really good friend, someone that you really want in your life, will respect you when you say, "I can't do this thing because I need some time out for me." Or, "We can't see both families this year. This year we will spend time with this family and next year we will spend time with the other family." Or saying, "No thank you, I'm choosing not to drink alcohol," and having that decision respected. Those are the friends and family that you need in your life. When we're used to not having boundaries, it can be really challenging to put a boundary in place, especially if people are used to coming and going and walking all over what previously didn't have a boundary in place. Physical boundaries in life can be fences, hedges, rivers that set divisions between this side and that side. And we don't put boundaries in place to be nasty, to be rude, to be unfair. We put healthy boundaries in place for self-preservation, for self-care, to look after our own needs and to put ourselves first. And when we're not in the habit of doing these things, of putting ourselves first and having healthy boundaries in place, it can be really challenging to first of all identify to people that you now have a boundary in place. Or even to yourself to acknowledge, "I'm putting this boundary in place and it's there to stay." Essentially, if people in your life will not respect your boundaries, at some point we need to decide whether these people should be in our lives or not. Most people that breach our boundaries aren't doing it on purpose, aren't doing it to hurt us. It's because they don't understand that there is a boundary there and will generally be respectful when you identify that this is a boundary for you. I'm sure that most of you will be aware that there are different styles of communication. We can communicate assertively, passively, aggressively, or passive-aggressively. One of those is a healthy communication style, and I'm sure you'll all agree that being assertive is the most healthy way to be. It's the best way to get our message across in a safe, healthy way. It's saying, "I've identified some needs in my life, and these are the boundaries that I'm putting in place." It can feel really strange to learn to speak assertively when we're not used to doing it. If we've grown up having our boundaries constantly violated, we can believe that we don't deserve to have healthy boundaries and that other people can just make decisions about what happens in your own life. Practicing being assertive is a skill. The more you practice, the easier it will become. And remember that people can't read your mind. So unless you speak up and say something, people won't necessarily know that your boundaries are being breached. And when we set boundaries, it's really easy to overshare, to over-explain, but sometimes we just need to keep it really simple. Learning to say no. and not explaining why. We don't have to have big elaborate explanations for why we can't attend something or why we're not going to do something this year. Learning to say, sorry, I won't be attending this year, and leaving it at that is more powerful than saying, look, I'm so sorry, I really wish I could attend, but I've got this going on and that going. Short and sweet is really crucial. And again, if people can't respect your reasons for not coming to something or not doing something, that's a them issue and not a you issue. Some people may find it easier to write down how they're feeling and the boundaries that they're putting in place, and then deliver a handwritten letter or a message to somebody explaining how they're feeling and the boundaries they're putting in place instead of verbalizing. Once you have written it down, you can follow it up with verbal action just to confirm what you've written. If you're someone that needs to write, this can take the stress out of knowing what to say because you have time to rehearse and edit what you've written to make sure that it sounds right and the exact message that you wish to convey. The risk with confronting somebody about your boundaries is that emotions could flare. There could be anger, there could be sadness, there could be tempers, and that would make it easier for someone who is new to setting boundaries to back down and not reinforce their new boundary. Writing things down also prevents you from ruminating afterwards and thinking, oh, I should have said this, I could have said this, why didn't I say this, I forgot to say this. It can help. Remember to use I feel statements. I feel statements are so powerful in conveying your message to other people. When you frequently ask me to drink alcohol and ask me why I'm not drinking alcohol, I feel upset inside. I feel that my boundaries are not being respected. Learn to make powerful statements instead of wishy-washy comments. Statements that allow people to know your place and know where your boundaries lie. This year, I'm taking my children to the country for a really quiet, intimate Christmas so we can have some quality time with our family. This is more powerful than saying, oh, I'm thinking of maybe just having us this year because it just gets a bit much sometimes, and well, you get the picture. When we make powerful statements, we're practicing being assertive. And remember that we need to maintain balance in our lives. So having a balance of family time, friends time, alone time can be really healthy, and knowing that balance and knowing when to say yes to invitations and knowing when to say no, I need to have me time is really important. Working out where your priorities are is really important to maintain balance. Maybe the housework has to give. Is it more important to do the housework and keep a really tidy house or spend time with your children? Choosing to start a family and have children usually means that we give up our weekends of crazy partying and very indulgent lifestyles in order to raise our children. When our priorities change, so too do our boundaries. And if friends can't respect bedtimes and children's routines and work deadlines, then maybe we should be questioning if these people are right for us in our life at this time. I just want to touch on something really important. Now, this could be a little bit touchy for some people, but I just want to say that just because somebody is family, just because somebody is blood or marriage related, if they are not respectful of your boundaries, you do not have to have this person in your life. Let me just repeat that. Just because somebody is related to us, they're family by blood or marriage, and if they do not respect your boundaries, you do not have to have this person in your life. It is much, much, much easier to end a friendship than it is to remove somebody that is family from your life. There's that old saying that says that blood is thicker than water. But at the end of the day, respect is respect. And if you don't feel respected, if you don't feel like your boundaries are being respected, you might have to have the really hard conversation with that person and say, these are my boundaries. My boundaries will be upheld, they will be respected, or I will choose not to have you in my life, not to have you in my children's life. This can cause a lot of friction, a lot of stress, a lot of upset in families. But at the end of the day, no one will look after your well-being better than you can. And if you have children, their safety, their well-being, their mental health should always come first, rather than loyalty to a family member. And let's just say that somebody has hurt you. Somebody's done something in your past that has caused pain, discomfort, whatever they've done. We have the option to forgive this person or not forgive them. Let's just say that we move down the path of forgiving this person. You can forgive somebody without having to have them back in your life. And you don't need to have people in your life just to keep the peace, just to keep up appearances. If by keeping the peace means that you're not at peace, then that is a violation of your boundaries. Keeping the peace tends to be for other people's convenience, not your own. At the end of the day, your happiness, your peace of mind is so much more important. Let's just make up a fictitious uncle right now. Let's call him Uncle Steve. Now, I don't have an Uncle Steve, so I'm not picking on anybody in particular. This is just a fictitious example. Let's just say that Uncle Steve liked to pop in from time to time unannounced with a box of beers and would sit at your house telling you all about his stories in front of your children while you're trying to get your children ready for bed. And Uncle Steve was getting drunker and drunker and becoming loud and inappropriate and swearing and making all sorts of crude comments. By never saying anything to Uncle Steve, we're allowing his behaviour to continue. By assertively approaching Uncle Steve and saying, Uncle Steve, we understand that you're family, but your behaviour isn't acceptable when you come to our house. If you wish to come to our house, please call us first to see if it's an okay time to visit. We also don't feel comfortable with you swearing and getting drunk in front of the children. If we do allow you to visit, we would appreciate you not to bring any alcohol. Steve might be really receptive for this and say, look, that's fine, I totally get that, let me change my ways. Or Steve might say, oh, what's your problem? You need to loosen up a bit. And that's where you'd say, look, Steve, we really don't appreciate your behaviour. You're no longer welcome at our house. We would appreciate it if you didn't come round anymore. I need to put the safety and well-being of my family ahead of our need to spend time with you. These conversations aren't going to be easy, but sometimes they just need to happen for people to understand that you have boundaries. You can't just be walked over. They can't just assert their needs and wants over you if it doesn't align with your values. Let's talk about boundaries with our bodies. In society, there are general rules for how to act and behave in certain situations. In the Western world, most people would say that it's not okay to just go up to a stranger and touch them, to put their hands anywhere on their body. We have boundaries around our personal space. Different cultures have different ideas about what personal space means. I'm going to share a story, and there's nothing right or wrong with this story. It's just an observation that I made. So my husband and I travelled to India, and we were lining up somewhere. And in New Zealand, we keep, I'd say, about a meter's space between us and the next person to indicate healthy personal space between strangers. In India, however, we were maintaining what we thought was a healthy personal boundary, a healthy personal space. In India, that personal space is much smaller. So what we thought was being respectful by leaving space between us and the next person indicated to the other people in the line that we weren't in the line. And so people were constantly pushing in front of us because they didn't think we were in line because there was too much space between us and the next person. But knowing what is culturally safe, knowing what is culturally appropriate in regards to touching of other people. Now, I don't have children of my own, but I'm going to speak on behalf of all of those who have ever carried a child inside their body. I've heard so many stories of people saying that when you're pregnant, you feel like your body isn't yours anymore. You feel like your body belongs to the public. And people will come up to you in the supermarket or on the street and touch your belly and say, oh, when are you due? Oh, how many months along are you? Some people love this. Other people, this is a massive violation of their boundaries and their personal space. And so if we're just mindful that if we want to touch someone that's pregnant or touch someone that's not pregnant, we seek permission first. And just because somebody's a cute little old lady in the supermarket does not give her the right to touch someone's belly if they don't want to be touched. This might seem really harsh, it might seem really cruel, but at the end of the day, your body is your body, my body is my body, my boundaries are my boundaries, your boundaries are your boundaries. And it's really important that we're mindful and respectful of other people's boundaries as well as our own. Let's just say that one of your friends was a vegan and they invited you over for dinner at their house. It wouldn't be appropriate for you to take a packet of bacon and some steaks and say, well, I'm not vegan, so I'm just going to cook this in your house. This wouldn't be respectful of their beliefs and their values. And if you were a really good friend, you would ask them what you can bring to contribute for dinner. So I know that today's topic has been quite a heavy one. It hasn't been as fun as some of the other ones. But I think it's really important just to know our boundaries, set our boundaries, and maintain our boundaries so that we can... I keep coming back to this. So that we can live really happy, healthy lives where we feel respected, we feel valued, and we can respect and value ourselves. So if you'd like to share a story about maintaining and setting healthy boundaries and how you found that, feel free to share it with the group. Also, if you feel comfortable sharing any challenges you've faced when you've set boundaries. How have you overcome these? How have you addressed these? Please just remember to keep all comments respectful, which I'm sure you will do anyway. Thank you so much for being part of day 11, and I can't wait for you to join me tomorrow for day 12 for our final day, the final day of Giftness. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. See you tomorrow.